trying to discuss, because I did not really understand what it was. But as I discussed the idea of the chaos, the idea of the matrix, the idea of a Holy Spirit guiding you forth to miraculous ends that you had never even considered, leaving you feeling loved and nurtured. This force is what the Hebrews would call the Shekinah. It was the feminine version of God. It was the mothering version of God. But there was issue with the Shekinah because you can manipulate it. Because it has no sense of right or wrong. It simply is. And in this way, the black magicians can take the use of the Shekinah and use it for their own evil ends. The idea of studying the Shekinah, Hebrew, and the Kabbalah comes up quite often as well. People often send me questions asking me, well, how can I better understand this idea of Kabbalah? How do I know what we're looking at, and how can I understand what you're telling me? What books should I read, and how can I get into a study of Kabbalah? Well, putting all aside any ideas of whether or not Kabbalah is evil, whether this is sorcery or magic, we need to set that all aside. We need to recognize that there is something to all of this, that it can't just be ignored, that the Bible has been following us around for, a couple millennia, and that this Hebrew understanding of reality cannot be escaped. Now we're going to find that the Hebrews, or the Jewish people, are behind many of the great significant scientific advancements in the world. Einstein, Oppenheimer, nuclear bombs, CERN, ABC. You may not know that Robert Iger, who runs old Walt Disney, is Jewish as well. And, after this show tonight, I'll actually give you a few minutes head start even. After the show tonight, there will be the premiere of the new, restored extraterrestrial series from ABC, which is, of course, owned by Walt Disney, which is ran by Robert Iger, who is Jewish. And we're probably going to see a lot of this Jewish history encoded into this story, and we're going to see a lot of predictive programming. I can't wait to discuss that all with you. It'll come on immediately after Radio Freeman, and I'll be there watching it, and next week I'll give you my update on my thoughts and feelings on what they were trying to say to us and what they're showing us and how deep the programming is going and how real this situation might be. Now, to fully understand the Kabbalah, to try and get into this perspective and understanding of these secret signs and symbols that we see all around us. Now, most of what I see in just your average, straightforward, regular corporate logos, let's just have a look. If we look at McDonald's, we see gold and arches. Now, of course, we know the Templars were most famous for gold and arches. And it was the Templars that then gave you money and took all the gold and the arches. Of course, then we're run out, but now forgiven by the Pope again. Long story. Go listen to Radio Freeman. Covered a lot. And if you're not getting the whole story there, definitely check out the Free Zone Saturday nights live on Oracle Broadcasting. And of course, all of that is backed up and saved on the freemanperspective.blogspot.com. All right, get all that out of the way. So Hebrew is this magical force, actually what some are saying is a universal mother tongue. The idea of the Hebrew letters actually being part of a hyperdimensional physical reality. So there are many researchers, and I plan to get them on my show, that are discussing the ideas of Hebrew being part of this hyperdimensional physical reality. So in that you would take a torus spiral, and you can look into this, and you take the torus spiral and turn it in different ways, and actually the light that would shine through it would generate the Hebrew alphabet. The Hebrew alphabet is all made of 22 letters, 22 letters, that then each have incorporated in them a separate power of God. Then you throw in with this different universal codes that come within this, such as the 72 names of God. Now these are 3 letters that signify 3 forces: a positive charge, a negative charge, and a ground. So the power is released through their unique shapes, through the patterns expressed in their lines and curves. The 3-letter sequence that forms each of the 72 names operates much like a cable transmitting various blends of energy. Now if you realize the Hebrew word for letter actually means pulse or vibration. And of course at the beginning of the Bible we have, in the beginning was the word, or the pulse, or the vibration. They say that these 22 letters existed before creation and were used as mediums to transfer energy from the upper worlds, the spiritual realm we do not perceive, to our physical world. There is much to this Hebrew alphabet. Some call it the spiritual DNA. And they say that with using this power, that it was actually Moses that split the Red Sea and not God, because he understood the power of these letters, these words, these utteration. So as you start to try to understand Kabbalah and you want to understand how this whole thing functions, then what you need to do is begin with the Tarot. Because really the Tarot is considered the book of life. And once you start to understand the patterns in the Tarot and understand the major arcana, you'll start to get greater understanding of the picture, of all of the signs and symbols that we see around us. So as I look at more corporate logos and I see, say, Arby's and its little lasso hat made up its corporate logo, then what I see is R and B, and R within the Tarot is the sun. So the letter R, Resh, equals the sun in the Tarot and is the 19th card. And then B, of course, is Beth, or in the Tarot it is the magician. So when you see RB, you'll see sun magician with a cable toe, or the noose that a mason wears around his neck when going through his ritual. We can go through each and every one of these corporate logos, starting to look at each one of these in this fashion. Not simply through the Tarot, of course you have to have an understanding of Masonic ritual to connect all of the pieces together. So as you start to look at the Tarot, you start with the major arcana, is probably the best way to begin, and you just take 1 through 21, or 0 through 21, making up the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and you watch as the progression goes along, as you go from the Fool to the Magician to the High Priestess to the Empress to the Emperor, and on. And if you want to get a little deeper insight on how I felt this all related to my life, check out my show, The Chronicles of Freeman. You'll find that on freemantv.com, and I show you how my life has kind of followed these Tarot cards through and up to right now the Hierophant, which I seem to be at this point as my teacher to you. Next is Lover, so I'm truly excited about that. But each of the letters within in the Hebrew not only have a title such as Aleph, Beth, Gimel, Daleth, Ha, Wa, and on through the letters, they also have a meaning. And so as you look at the letter A, it actually means ox. Or you look at the letter B, it means house. Or the letter G, camel. And this is where I got